Thank you, Albert. I'm quite tempted, following Joe's presentation, to change what I'm going to say, but I won't, because. But what I want to put across in the presentation, I'm going to set the context in a minute. That is a question. I'm not able to prove that. That is a question I'm asking. So I think that's a really important starting point. Let's be brave about asking questions, and maybe the questions don't give us the answers that, you know, if I was working in this for a corporate organisation that wanted me to prove that. So some of the things you're going to hear me say may challenge some of the assumptions we make about the use of technology. And I'll just make a final comment where I may link my work to Joe's. The vocational education system in the UK, we used to call it further education, but it's a very politicised system. It's very much linked to an expression which is used far too often, this notion of skills pipeline to employment. Take that whichever way you like, but it's very politicised. And it was interesting, about 3 or 4 years ago, we stopped referring to it as further education, and we have really now turned it into vocational education. It's a public system. I've got a little animation, which I'm quietly proud of, because I had a little hand in preparing it myself, which I'll show you in a minute to set the context for that. But let's just kick off with my overview for this session. So I'm going to give you a bit of a rapid run through and share with you what I am obliged to call interim findings, because the fieldwork is still ongoing. I'm going to put that in the context of fieldwork I've been conducting in so far 3 colleges in the UK. Highbury College, which is in Portsmouth on the south coast. Barking and Dagenham College, which is in the East End of London, quite a different demographic. Mid-Kent College, and the George Telegraph College in Calcutta, India, where I spent a month in January, which is, again, a very different context. So I'm going to share with you some of the issues and findings, and in the spirit of doing a demo, I'm going to share with you some videos, and I was quite inspired by Nuria Miro's presentation yesterday. So I want to talk as little as possible and share with you some videos. And I might need Gerard, I don't know where he's gone, I might need his help to pull up the videos on the screen. Let me just start with the obligatory context setting slide, though. Those of you who may follow international football might have come across the word Highbury and think of it in the context of the Arsenal football team. But we are a college called Highbury College. We're based in Portsmouth. That's just some of the facts and figures about the college. We're a member of a consortium in England called the Gazelle Colleges Group. I believe these slides might be available after the session. Is that right? You can go on there and have a look. You might find some resonance with some of the things we've talked about during the seminar around authenticity, the comments yesterday about learning and living being, you know, 2 sides of the same experience. Because what this organisation is trying to do, or this group of colleges, is they're trying to contextualise the students' learning in real life settings. So I won't go into detail. Like if you're interested, you can find it. Now, I do have a little introduction from Sugata just to set some of the scenes. Gerard, could you help me just pull up the video? Just a minute or so. Thank you. So I'm playing this in animation, which is going to put it into context. I'll just take it slightly back. And it does summarise the approach to the fieldwork and some of the interim findings. And we have managed to rescue some of the students talking as well, so we'll do that in a minute. Okay. So I put that little animation together to summarise quite a lot of the work that's gone on to date. And behind some of those sort of very short statements, there are other sort of, there's quite a lot of narrative, which again I can make available. Top left-hand corner was the only computing room in Calcutta. So that's the students working round. They were automotive students, 40 in a class. Teaching contract for the teachers in the college was 42 hours a week. Contact time. All their administration done on top of the 42 hours. I was there for about a month, and we actually did observe quite a number of very interesting gains, I would say, and these weren't coming from me, these were coming from particularly the quality person who was working with me, who was, I mean, their English, their standard of English improved quite significantly. So that's the picture at the top. Picture below, group of plastering students in Barking and Dagenham College in the East End of London. Students who traditionally would be much happier in the workplace, doing the actual hands-on work. But again, I'll share these videos with you separately after today, some interesting video footage of them working in a soul environment. And again, some more students from Barking and Dagenham. These were beauty therapy students. Now, I've managed to transfer onto the Windows laptop a video with students in Highbury College and staff talking about their experience. So in fact, my eyesight's not great from this distance. I think it's that one. So I've chosen this one. Those people from the UK might appreciate this. I had a choice very quickly to make just now between, were you going to struggle, those of you for whom English is not your first language, were you going to struggle with Hampshire dialect, which has got its own dialect, or were you going to have East End? And they're both great. They're just perhaps the Hampshire one might be slightly more accessible in an international context. So how do we get this up? Should I? It's not on the screen. That's it. Okay. So again, what I'm going to do here, let me just stand up for a minute. Top left, you've got two students talking. These are business students. He was a business student as well. This guy, construction lecturer, I do have footage of an experiment where the students were asked to investigate how they would build a freestanding scaffold. You know the sort of scaffold you put outside of buildings? 3 tiers high, and the assessment was to actually build the scaffold and stand on it with all sorts of health and safety things. Again, I've got video footage of that, but we're not going to look at that this morning. Another business lecturer, and then somebody who works as an advanced practitioner in the college who's giving his observations about the work that we did. This takes a couple of minutes, so let's just play it, because at least we'll get some sense from people involved.
I thought it was good. The way we, you can notice whether, if I was to pick out something, so when we was working in a team, working in groups, if I was to pick out something we're reading on the internet and then notify it, but then Holly would have been like, oh, maybe, look, she might not have picked it out.
Yeah, we learn from each other.
Well, learn from each other, and she could pick something out that I'd not noticed. So, you then, it all adds up in your head as you go along.
Yeah, you understand things more. She's not sat by herself trying to, work out what things mean.
Yeah.
The fact that you also had just one computer amongst the four of you, what do you think about that sort of way of doing it?
Same thing.
Yeah.
You're not looking at one thing and getting one example, and looking at another one and getting another and thinking, well, what's right, sort of thing. You get mixed up, don't you?
You're more of a group because you're not separated, sort of sitting at your own computer, not because some people don't listen if that's doing something else.
Yeah.
I thought it was really good. I liked being able to do stuff by ourselves and not have to read off the board. It gave us a sense of freedom, and we could make our own decisions. And there was very free rein on what the task was. It wasn't just here's something, do it. It was here's something, go wild, do what you like with it, find out about it, which I thought was really good. I really enjoyed doing it.
Okay, my name's Dom Thompson. I'm a business lecturer at Highbury College, and we've just done the first session using the SOUL method. And if I'm really, really honest, it surprised me how much they did get, and not just what they got, but how linked it was to what I would have talked of. So if I'd have done a PowerPoint, I would say 80–90% they'd have got on their own. So I think actually it showed how much they enjoyed and how much they got from learning in that different way. You know, because sometimes, I mean, I do like the continuum of value, the ladder of loyalty, the transactional versus relational customer, and they picked out the key words without me having to actually tell them about this theory. So they actually got the real version rather than my theoretical presentation, which I thought was actually really, really good.
I quite like the idea that students, if you like, have a certain amount of freedom to work in groups and put input and collaborate together. I think what's going to be really interesting doing this sole one, certainly in construction, is one of the sessions we're going to do is actually linked to them not actually learning information, but actually be able to transfer for doing a practical hands-on task that's also going to assess, for want of a better word, what they've actually learned, interpreting what they've learned in their brain, to actually what construction's about, doing it with their
practical
hands and in a safe manner as well. As long as you get the core skills, I think what you're actually bestowing in students is almost sort of a passion or an appetite to carry on learning. So you'll get into a basic core or skill level, and then I think if students are hungry to learn, then as the new technologies comes out, they'll actually want to learn them, because as professionally, they're going to develop more, which then relates in the real world to earning more money, being able to do more work, having more scope of employment. So I think we look at it from that.
It's extremely exciting. The teachers say that here they are encountering initially a very far out idea. What a crazy idea, they say, that you can remove all the trappings and reconfigure what you're doing. It's not this is not Carl Rogers being reinvented for the 21st century, which was the facilitating model. It's different because Carl Rogers wasn't working on the notion that there was a principle or a capacity within a person to organise their own learning if you set the conditions correctly. He was saying, I'm still facilitating what you're doing, and I'm going to give you the guidance and structure. There was no sense of self-organising. It was implicit and perhaps buried away deeply, but this is something genuinely new and something which reconfigures so many people's perceptions. The lecturers have said to me, it really casts a fresh light upon their own practice, and they see, and several of them have said immediately they can see how they could take little elements of what they're experimenting and integrate them into what they normally would have done in a particular way, and then thought, actually, this gives me confidence to experiment within much more constricted environments where it is largely supervised, teacher-led, etc. But remove some of these parameters really discreetly, reconfigure a few elements to allow, if you like, a space within which self-organising behaviour occurs, and to see how that learning improves. And perhaps the most interesting remark I think I've come across is that self-organising suggests that we fundamentally misunderstand the ability, even in the skills sector, for our students to learn and direct their own learning. It's almost as if it reinvigorates the faith of that student to be able to do that.
Okay, so we'll pause there in terms of the presentation, because I've got a few more things. I've got a few more things on PowerPoint, but let's not go there. As I say, it'll be available. So what you're seeing there is some of it at different stages. The students talking immediately after the session, and it was a case of just saying, who would like to come and talk about this? We've had group discussions as well. And the teacher talking about his reaction. So that was just sort of shot immediately after. The last comments I thought were particularly interesting about us underestimating our students' interest and capacity to take control of their own learning. you know, I don't want to sort of be stereotypical about some of the students that come into further education colleges, but we really have students across the piece. You know, we have students for whom, for whatever reason, you know, school hasn't been a great success. Because if it had, I mean, you know, going back to the grade and the assessments and levels benchmarking that we all have to experience. If school had been such a great success, then we wouldn't have the number of students we have in further education colleges at level 1 and level 2. They should be coming in at a higher level. We wouldn't have a lot of students still needing help with their functional literacy and numeracy. So we cover a wide spectrum. And I suppose my sort of final comment really is one of the things that's been particularly noticeable for me, and discussing my fieldwork with Sugata in the context of his, which is very much with younger age children, you know, often primary school. With the older learners, we do get into very interesting conversations about how they learn and how they're learning to learn. And in this world that we regularly hear, you're going to have 7 careers by the time you're 32. You're never going to stay in a job for more than whatever period of time. We don't know what the jobs in the future are going to be. That capacity to understand how you learn is really quite interesting. And some of the students who you've seen on video would make a point in subsequent lessons of saying to their teacher, can we use the soul approach to this topic? We think it lends itself to the soul approach. I've had students challenge the teacher for choosing, you know, inappropriate questions. The whole notion of a curriculum based around questions, again, is what underpins self-organised learning. And choosing the right question is a real art. And I had an experience just in a college last week where the teacher admitted afterwards she hadn't quite got the question as sharp, because it was quite interesting. It was almost like a trap, you know, it was like kind of needle in a haystack, but not telling the students where anything at all. She says, what I really wanted them to find out was X. And I said, yes, but you didn't put any of that in the question. So, and then she said, but they've gone much further than I would have gone if I'd been, you know, tackling that subject. So I said, so yes, so what does that mean? So I'm getting into very interesting conversations. It's ongoing, the research work is ongoing. I finished the field work about next April, and I'll be, you know, wrapping a lot of the data analysis up then. So I'm going to pause it there. I'm sorry that we've had a bit of technical glitches and you weren't able to see, but the other videos we'll make available. And I might just go back to reviewing whether a MacBook is the best way forward. Although looking around the room, you know, I'm in great company with everybody with MacBooks, but obviously we had some compatibility issues. So let's leave it there.
Thank you so much. Even if we are out of time, we will have just a moment in order to have a couple of questions if you have them. If there is no one, I will... Cathy, please.
Yeah, I realize we didn't get to see all the videos, but the videos we saw were more about the soul, about responses to the soul method. I don't quite understand what the method is. Can you just give us a few more, like sort of the tactile...
Yeah.
What is it? The same question I asked Joe. What does a day look like if you're teaching in the soul method or learning in the soul method?
Yeah. So, in terms of the actual, experiments, first of all, this has been a collaborative research project. So, working in the classroom with the teachers for a number of weeks, so the students get to know me, and I'm not some strange creature that's come in, and then working with the teacher to identify a topic which would lend itself to a good exploratory question. You know, so an expansive question. So that's really important, getting the question. So one of the questions recently was about, it was in a performing arts subject, and it was around the Greek theatre, and the teacher had come up with a question, the Greek theatre, what did the Greeks ever do for us? And that led to all sorts of very interesting things, and the students were amazed to see links between what we have in the theatre now. So what it looks like is the students work around one laptop or PC, usually in groups of 4, sometimes 5. I mean, it will depend upon the numbers in the room. And that's very important, that they're not working individually on a computer. So a lot of our rooms, and that might be similar in your settings, a lot of our rooms are set up where you have, banks of computers. They're not a great configuration. The students are given the question, they're asked to form groups. They're given the freedom to change groups, although very rarely do they change groups, but they are given the freedom to change groups. And they're given the question, given the time to explore it in their group with the internet. And then at the end of the session to present their findings to the rest of the group. So that's it in a nutshell. I mean, I'll describe it in more sort of detail in the paper that's quoted in the abstract on the is part of the website.
But that was really important because in the video they talk about 3 or 4, and it sounds almost like that's a problem.
Yeah.
But it's a methodology.
Yeah.
So I learned from your comment right
now.
Yeah, so that was great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's right.
Any other question? Well, then, Cathy, thank you very much.
Thank you, Albert.